I'm really happy to be here and like basically taking you through internet developer platform that we have built called Choreo. So in this session, Joe and I will walk you through how to basically configure an internet developer platform first, and then basically onboard developers. And in this session, basically we have two personas. The platform engineer persona, that's me, and then like Joe is going to be the like architect or the developer persona of this platform. So as the first step, let's say what we as the platform engineers we love, right? So we love to build platforms, but first we need to understand to whom we are building these platforms for. So we are building this platform for our like developers and architects, and they are our customers. At the same time, like if you try to understand the complexity of building such a platform is very huge. So you need to like basically work with so many like tools and like things. For example, it could be like service mesh, API management solutions, CI/CD platforms, or it could be different observability stacks, and you need to build this, basically configure this everything so that like you can enable zero trust implementations and so on. So building this is very hard in our opinion, and that's why we have come up with this Choreo platform. And so it is offered as a like a SaaS offering where you can basically go to the website and then sign up there, and then basically start configuring your internet developer platform, make it suitable for you, basically depending on the enterprise you are. If it is a startup, yes, you can just use it. But if it is an enterprise which has various like regulations, etc., then they need to make sure like those are configured in this internet developer platform so that it is ready to be used in production. So, so that's about the platform engineer's journey. And then when it comes to the developer's journey, so what they love is basically developing code and basically commit it, get it deployed automatically to the development environment, test it, and discover different endpoints or the APIs available in your organization so that you can quickly basically subscribe to those APIs and then like consume, right? And you also like basically test it and keep coding. So that's the developer's journey of it. Let's see like what we have planned in this lab session. So first, I will like explain how to set up this platform engineering setup, basically like how to configure your organization with like different environments, different pipelines, and also like let's create some open AI connection token and get a token and try to create that AI service so that the developers can consume, right? And then I will hand out Joe to take you through like basically as a developer onboarding different projects, components, and deploy into the development environment. Now after that, again, I will try to like demonstrate like some of the operational aspects in Choreo. Basically, you can look at the observability aspect, like what is the like different metrics, and then configure alerts and so on. And finally, like we try to recap everything. So you can try out the lab materials here, like so we can start from there. So let me go to the first step. So this is what we are going to do. So now I'm playing the platform engineer role. So what happens is usually you figure out there's a like SaaS offering and you want to sign up there first, and then like basically we will go through what you see after you signing up into the platform, and then do various activities like creating environments, inviting developers, etc. So this is our like GitHub repository which contains all the information. And then, so as per the first step, you will be like trying to sign up. So this is the like choreo.dev endpoint website where you can sign up, right? So if you take a platform engineer, what we do is like first we need to create our own master account. So we will basically go into like this sort of whatever the SaaS environment, and we will create our master account there using one of these like authentication mechanisms. So basically it has enabled like signing up with different identity providers like GitHub, Google, Microsoft, and so on. And after getting this master environment set up or the organization set up, what you can do is you can connect different identity providers. You can like invite developers. So first thing is like getting an account ready. So if you don't have an account, you can basically sign up here. But here, since I have already an account, I'm going to sign in. So I'm going to sign in with Google account. Right. So now we have the concept of basically having multiple organizations. So I'm going to land on a like very brand new organization. Okay. So now once you are like registered for the first time for Choreo as sign up using your own email, etc. This is the landing page. Now you can decide as a platform engineer, I'm going to basically configure this environment so that you can do various configurations and make it ready for your enterprise. So let's go with the platform engineering aspect. And then this is where you have to decide, like as the default environment, on which region your workloads are going to be, right? Depending on the like organization policies, you will like have the option of like basically picking one of these available regions. If it is not sufficient for you, then there's another option later where you can connect one of your private data plane to this environment so that you can deploy your workloads on that. So let me quickly proceed with the defaults. Okay, so now I have logged in as a platform engineer. So if you can see here, like basically there's a drop down where you can like switch between things. So I'm going to stay in the platform engineering perspective right now. So this is the complete overview page of the enterprise platform, right? So internet developed platform. So what you see here is a ready-made environment. Now you can just invite Joe or your developers and let them to configure, basically deploy applications. It is already set up as soon as you sign up. But in this session, I wanted to like basically take you through different capabilities of this platform engineering perspective so that you can basically configure it to the level your enterprise needs. Let's say we have seen some of like our customers having 15 or 20 plus environments. So they want to like, right now what we have provided is only 2 environments by default. And the data plane is where you actually deploy your workloads. It could be AWS or GCP, a Kubernetes cluster running somewhere, and you can connect it. And on top of that, you can create multiple environments. And then like you can, when your developers like onboard lot of APIs, web application into this platform, now they need to have like its own URL, to customize it, right? So it is our job as a platform engineers to customize these custom domains, etc. Likewise, for example, you have the workflow capability saying like, I want to enable this particular workflow so that like when you are going to promote this from one environment to the another, we can like get an email and get approval and so on. So these are the general practice that when you are trying to promote application. So likewise, there are a lot of other capabilities. Now I'm not going to go in each. So as the next step, let's try to create an environment. So right now we have only 2 environments here. And let's try to create an environment. So I will name this as staging. And I will create this environment on top of a existing like data plane. Let's say like you had like connected set of other private data planes in different clouds on different regions, then you can pick from here. And then like I need to like give a DNS prefix here so that like we can identify different environment specific endpoints or the web applications. So I'm going to name it as staging. And I'm going to mark it as a like production environment. So basically staging also like considered as a in this particular example, as a critical environment where like before promoting to that environment, you need to basically get approval, etc. So I will create it. Now you will see like with couple of clicks, we are able to replicate in the environment as it is. Now I'm basically setting up the platform engineering from the platform as a platform engineer, my internal developed platform. So we have 3 environments right now. So let me go to the DevOps section and try to create a basic look at what are the available CD pipelines. So this is the default pipeline we had. So I'm going to edit it, like basically we had the development to production sort of promotional pipeline. So let me edit it. From here, like, so I'm going to say development to stage into production, and then click update. So you will see that the pipeline was quickly updated. If you need, you can create a new pipeline from scratch as well from here. So I'm not going to go on that part, but it's available. And also you can mark, if you have multiple pipelines, you can mark what is the default pipeline for your entire organization. And then we have the capability of assigning this pipeline to different projects as well. For example, let me explain a scenario like in a multi-cloud deployment. Right, so there are like a set of projects that deploy into AWS data plane, and there are a set of projects that are deployed into a Azure sort of a cloud offering. So then like we want to configure 2 different pipelines, and one pipeline will go and deploy into a like AWS accounts, and another pipeline will go and deploy Azure account. So this is how like we are going to like use these different pipelines when you are working with platform engineering perspective. Okay, so now I am done with environment creation, and then I have a pipelines also updated. And let's look at what's in the governance section. Yeah, so let's try to enable environment promotion workflow. So there what will happen is like as soon as you enable it, we want to say like who can approve this. Let's say like when somebody is trying to promote application from development to stage in environment, now someone should approve it. So this is usually done by the product manager, like when the release is ready, somebody who is in the product management role or the like engineering management role has to receive an email and then give a green light saying it is good to go production, right? So let's say I'm going to give that responsibility to the project admin, and you can give an email address also here. Okay, now we have enabled the like workflow for promotion. Right, so we did couple of things. So let me go and go to the next section. Let's say like usually the developers need like pre-configured databases, or it could be like brokers like Kafka, etc., right? So this is where you can create these resources and basically pre-configure for your developers to use. And then let's say in this particular lab session, we are going to use OpenAI endpoint and let them to like basically use that OpenAI API to develop the application. But usually these sort of things are done by the platform engineering team or the DevOps team, who basically sign up to the OpenAI and then like basically put their credit card, corporate credit card, and get a token and then basically save it, right? It is not given to the developers usually. So this is the flow that we are going to demonstrate right now. So let's say I pick OpenAI as the like provider. And here I have to copy the exact name because we have configured our all other sample applications to use the same name. So I'm going through my notes. Yeah, OpenAI. Okay, so now I can basically I am registering OpenAI. So now I have to get the key. So if you are following this session with us, so in the lab section we have given a URL where you can basically get the key. This is a demo key we have given if you are following the lab session, but like only for temporary like time period. So let me copy that value. Oops. And go back to here and save it. All right. Let me double check the same value again. I have copied the same thing. Good. Yeah. Now I am going to register it. So what I did was I basically got an OpenAI token, and then I registered it as a like API into the our like internal developer platform. So now still it is not exposed to the developers, right? So the way we expose it to the developers is basically adding it to the marketplace. So when you say add to marketplace, now it is visible for the like developers in their like marketplace as a different API where they can basically talk basically use that API to call it, and they don't need to know anything about credential, and Joe will demonstrate that part. Okay, so we did a couple of things. From the start, we created the environment, we modified the pipeline, we enable workflows, and then like we registered to the OpenAI, and finally like we need to look at the overall security of this or the security posture of this deployment, right? So that's where like I prefer to not to like allow any connection going out from my data plane to any endpoint. That's where I want to block everything. So let's see like how I can do it. So in the governance section, when you go to the egress control, that's where like let's say like developers have developed deployed set of applications into these data planes, and now they are trying to call different endpoints, right? As the SRE team, we need to make sure like they are not communicating with like untrusted endpoints and so on. So we have to block them. So this is where like we are going to say deny all outgoing traffic from this for the entire organization, and I'm going to say like allow open AI, right? And then we need to get the exact domain of that, where it's going to make a call. Let's say it's API. Right. So let's add a rule. So with this now you will see like I'm in the organization level. For the entire organization, we have blocked all the outgoing traffic when the applications are trying to call out, and allowed only the OpenAI endpoint. Right? So I think I have done good enough configuration right now as a platform engineer to basically set up this my organization. And then as the final thing, I want to invite Joe as a user of this setup. So this is the user management side of it. Like we have the groups and roles default RBAC solution. So you can customize, you can create new permissions, new roles, combine different permissions and invite users. So I am inviting Joe as right now I will invite as admin, because like he might join to the other, move to the other views as well to make the flow nice. So let me invite him. So invitation is sent, like Joe should be able to like basically receive the email and continue. So apart from that, like there are so many other various things that you can configure in this enterprise, but like we will look into that once like Joe start like basically configuring different application, onboarding different application, right? Right now I have done certain set of configuration and it's good to go. Let me hand over to Joe to like onboard application.
Good evening, everybody. Just give me 1 minute to set this up.
Do we have any questions in the meantime from Angela? Yes.
For the user or role management, can we also connect external identity provider, LDAP, or any other, and inherit the permissions?
Yeah. So what I did was like I registered as a platform engineering admin, right? So then like what we can do is like we can configure different like identity providers. And like that identity provider can be used for two purposes. One for like basically invoking, when you are invoking APIs, you need to get tokens for the external users, right? Maybe your customers. So we can connect them as like key managers to the system. And the other option is like your developers are staying in your own LDAP or in your own custom identity provider. So we have the option of like plugging such custom identity providers also into this platform. Right now it is not like 100% self-serviceable, like you have to contact us, and after that like we will configure it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So today I'll be playing the developer role in the tutorial. So as a developer, when you are asked to build application, so the difficult part is not actually building the application, right? Not the coding. With that, basically, there's like a lot of tedious work you need to do in order to get the application up and running. So these are like some of that work. For example, you have to set up build pipelines and then configure the development environments. And also, if you are depending on other services, you need to go and find the information about those APIs. So all this work you have to do in order to build your application. So some might argue, okay, so there are like other teams that are there to set up the build pipelines and the development environments. But then again, like communicating your requirements to that team and get something done might be even more difficult. Also, if you look at another tedious thing that you have to do when developing an application, especially a cloud-native application, basically your application might depend on multiple other services. So in that case, in order to develop the application, you need to set up all those applications in your local machine in order to do iterative testing and development. So that's again a pain point when it comes to building these type of apps. And also, you need to think about network security, etc., etc. Okay, so today we'll go through the Choreo experience and see how Choreo helps developers to make these activities easier. For this particular tutorial, we'll be building a application. Basically, it's an expense tracking application. So what the application does is it will allow you to take a picture of a bill and then upload to the system, and then it will extract the data from the picture and then add it to your expenses. So for this particular application, as you can see, there are like multiple services we are going to implement. So you have the web app, which is a React-based application, and then you have a BFF API. And then you have the receipt API, which will actually talk to the OpenAI API to get the receipt image converted to data. And then we have an accounts API where we store the expense details. Okay. So these are the steps we need to do to get that working. So let me start with where Manjula stopped. So basically, Manjula sent me an invite to join the organization. So this is the mail that I got. So let's go and join the organization. So here the authentication goes to our Asgardio cloud identity platform. Okay, so now I'm logged into Choreo, and if you look at the top corner, you can see I'm joined to WSO2Con Lab 2 organization. Okay, so now we are all set. I can start building the application. So let's go to step 1. So the first step is I have to create new project to house my application. So in Choreo, a Choreo project gives you 2 key features. Mainly, it allows you to group components which are related together, and also it creates a network boundary around those components. So basically, it will allow you to control the incoming and outgoing traffic within the project, and also within the project, all the components can communicate without any authentication. So let's start by creating a project. So here I have select the default one. So let's create a new one. So I'll give the name as expense tracker. And then system will automatically generate ID. And then basically you can add a description. Then if you want, you can add a repo as well to the project. So that will help with documentation. It will display the documentation of that project in the project page. So I'll do that as well. So basically, you need to authorize with GitHub. And then here, I'll add my GitHub organization by going through the flow. So instead of giving all the repositories, I'll select only few. And then I have already forked the repo of this particular tutorial, so I'll give that repo and install. Okay, then I can select the repository and the branch, and then I can select the project directory. So in the tutorial repo, we have the project directory called expense tracker, so I can select that and create. Okay, so now I have created the project for my application. So as you can see, we display the README under the project. So the project creation is done. So let's move on to creating the components. So if I go back to the diagram, so I'll first create this accounts API and this receipt API. So here, I'll select service, and I'll authorize with GitHub. And then I'll select the location of the component. So in the repo, we have already created the source code for the component. So in this case, I'll select the accounts directory as a component directory. And then basically, you have to select the build pack for that component. So basically, this particular service is written in Go. So I can select Go build pack for this component. And then I also have to select the language version. And the component details are automatically derived from the directory information. And then I can simply create the component. So once the component is created, you'll be automatically redirect to the builds page. So basically, you can see when we create the component, it will automatically trigger a build in the Choreo system. And if you want, you can enable auto build on commit. Basically, that will trigger a build when you do new commits to this component. So let's, while the build is happening, let's go and create the receipt API as well. So I'll go back to the project. And then I'll press create component. Again, I'm creating a service. I'll authorize with GitHub. And for that, for the component directory, I'll give the receipt directory. Okay, so the receipt API is written in Python because it deals with OpenAI and some processing. And here, instead of using Python, I have configured a Docker build for this particular service. So if you want, you can give a Docker file as well for the build. So let's, for the receipt API, let's select the Docker file. And then it detects the names automatically, and you can go ahead and create the service. So again, it will be taken to the build page. So let me go back to the project. And then open up the architecture diagram. So basically, we have this architecture diagram view in Choreo, which gives you a picture of how the components are set up. So as you can see, we have the accounts and the receipt APIs created. So as the next step, I'll be connecting the receipt API with the OpenAPI, OpenAI API. So in order to do that, I'll go back to the project. And I'll select the receipt API. And then under receipt API, I can create a dependency for the OpenAPI connection. So the way to do that, you go to dependencies and select connections. And you can select services. And then you will be taken to this marketplace view. So basically, this, as a developer, this will be really convenient. Like you have all the details of the available APIs here. So in this case, this is a third-party service. So I can simply click this. And then I have to give a connection name. So I have to give this exact name here because the source code is configured to that name. So I'll copy that. and create. So once I create a connection, it will show you like how to configure that in the component. So this part is already done in this tutorial. But later on, when I implement the BFF, I'll go into more details on how to do this. Okay, so now the connection is also done. So let's go back to the project. And now if you look at the architecture diagram, you can see there's a connection from receipt to OpenAI. Okay, so now setting up of these two APIs are done. So let's go ahead and deploy these two APIs to the development environment. So that's pretty straightforward. So let's first deploy the accounts API. So as you can see, build has passed. So if you go to the deploy, and here all you have to do is configure and deploy. So you don't have to, I don't have any configuration for this component, so I can simply click next, next. And here it automatically detects the endpoint of this particular API. I'll tell more detail about this with the BFF API. And I click deploy. So once you click deploy, you can see the API gets deployed into the development environment. So while that is getting deployed, let's go and deploy the receipt API as well. It will be the same steps. Okay, so just like that, I have deployed two APIs into the development environment. So as the next step, we'll go and create this BFF API for this web app. So in order to create the BFF API, I'll move into the VS Code. So usually a developer, what they would do is, so this particular BFF API I have implemented in Node.js and Express framework. So if you are a developer, you will typically initialize a Node package and then write a simple Express service, and you would want to deploy into the dev environment to go through iterative development. So let's see how that can be done. So here you can see the Node code is already there. So let's onboard this into Choreo. So for Choreo, in order to deploy an API, Choreo needs to know what the port is for that API. And also it needs to know what type of an interface does it have, whether it's a REST API, whether it has like an open API definition. So all that information we have to provide to Choreo for it to work. So let's see how we can pass those information to Choreo of our BFF API. So the way to do that is via a configuration file, which you have to put into a directory called .choreo in your component, and then the file name is component.yaml. Then basically you have to copy this particular configuration into that. So as you can see here, this has details about the endpoint that I'm going to expose from my component. So the base path is /API, and it's running on port 9090. And the type of the API is REST. And also there's a section called network visibilities. So here, the BFF API, we are going to expose to the outside, to the internet. So because of that, we have to specify the network visibility as public. Opposed to the accounts and the receipt API, their network visibility is project, so they can be only accessible within the project. And then I have to give the schema file path as well. So this schema file is useful in many places, like when you publish this API to Choreo, the API will be end up in the marketplace. So if someone else is trying to find out information about this particular API, then all those informations are available there. So once you fill this, you just have to commit this. I'll add this file. And I'll push it to GitHub. Okay, so the endpoint configuration is done. Now we can go and make this into a new component. So, like in the previous case, you have to follow the same step. Let me double check. Okay. All the changes are pushed. So let's go and create the BFF API. So again, I select service and I authorize with GitHub. And here I'll select the component directory as BFF API. And since this is a Node.js project, I can select the Node.js build pack. And then I'll select the Node.js as the latest version. And I'll keep the component names as it is and create. Okay, here for this component, I'll enable auto build on commit. Okay, so now the build is going on. While that is going on, if you go back to our diagram, you can see BFF API talks to both of these APIs. So let's create those connections. So I'll go to, I'm already select BFF API. So then I can go to dependencies and connections and select services. So as you can see, the component APIs that we already created is now available in the marketplace in Choreo. So it's very easy to discover them. So then I can go and select the service I want to put a dependency to. So here I want to select accounts. So the name of the connection is important. So I'll use accounts as the name. And then since this is a project level API, access mode is project and unsecured. So I can create the connection. Okay, so now the connection is done. So now we need to configure our component with these connection details. In order to do that, all you have to do is copy these configuration lines into the component.yaml. So basically, this will tell Choreo that this particular component is depending on this accounts API. And the next part you have to do is, in order for the BFF API to talk to the accounts API, it needs to know the URL of the accounts API. So the way that works is, once you have added a dependency, Choreo will automatically inject the URL of that API as an environment variable when the BFF API is running. So we need to use that particular environment variable in your code to tell the correct URL of the dependent API. So let me configure that part quickly. So I'll copy this environment variable. So if I go to the code, so in this case, the service clients are configured in this service client.js. So here, I have like two Axios clients, one for account service and other for the receipt API. So then I can use the environment variable that was showing in that document here. So this part is already configured in the code. And once you do the changes, basically you can commit. So let's quickly add a dependency from the receipt to the receipt API as well. So I'll create another dependency. So again, I have to add this to our component YAML. And then I have to go and configure the environment variable in my source code. Okay. So now we have configured the dependencies. So let's push these changes to the repo. And then push it to the repo. Okay, so now we have configured the connections. And now we can go and deploy the BFF API. So I'll go to components and select BFF API. So since we push new changes, a build is going on. Okay, so while the build is going on, any questions so far? Yes.
Friendly app engineer set up the open API gateway and add it to the marketplace to begin with. What about the services available? Can he or she also say remove Ruby, say this is not something we want to forward use of Java 17 and duplicate 11, etc.?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
The build packages, which ones are available to offer for the consumers of the Choreo platform? Is that configurable?
Build packs.
Yes.
Manjali, you want to answer that?
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, good. So yeah, so basically what we have done is like we have onboarded this Google build packs here. So with that, like we also like we have, if you look at this build configuration section, you can basically change the build pack version, etc. So we are going to basically write support, like add in multiple build packs, basically say Heroku-like and other things. And also from the governance perspective, as a platform engineer, I want to have the control of saying like, okay, Java 8 is not supported, sort of a thing. So it's on the way, like this is in the roadmap, like we are working on it.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions?
Yeah, let's shoot off one more question, different one. So let's say I have leaked an API credential and I need to cycle it and create a new one. Yeah, so let's say I have leaked an API credential for one of these service endpoints and I need to cycle it, create a new one and inject it into the running applications without downtime. How do I, do that?
So when you are like,
the life cycle of API credentials with zero downtime.
yeah, so when you have like basically consume APIs, let's say as like organizational level API, etc. So when this connection is created, the client is going to be the BFF API, right? And then like when it gets deployed, like it will automatically like basically regenerate these credentials internally and then inject to the actual runtime. For example, let's say like you promote this application to the next environment and it will automatically like create a client ID secret sort of or through credentials and basically manage the credential management internally without basically developers having to like basically work on anything of that. Did I answer your question? Or?
No, I didn't understand your answer. So if I need to create a new version of the credential and deliver that new version of the credential to the existing running applications.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
The question is basically now if you inject a credential to a running container, right? And now you find out that credential has leaked, right? And you want to replace it with the new one. That's your question. And does it cause a downtime? That's the question, right? If I understand correctly? Yeah, so no, because Choreo follows a rolling update mechanism. So what that means is if you have 3 instances of your pods running with your old API key, now you can go to the configurations and update that API key through Choreo. Now what it will do is it will go and replace that key in those running instances, but it will do it one by one. So it will take down the first one, renew it, and repeat the process for the remaining 2. So that way your clients or the other running systems are not impacted, right? So that's how, and your keys get renewed. So that's how you do it without a downtime.
And
When you're using the same secret name or you kind of having an evolutionary secret name that injects at the environment.
yeah, so in the configuration section, you can basically regenerate another key and basically use it.
Key value is same.
Yeah.
Key.
Basically, the key is same, but basically in your code, you are using the same key, even in different environments, but the value will be different from environment to environment. And when you rotate in also the credentials, basically we rotate only the value.
Then once you change the key, the previous one gets invalid. So even when the active ones, you will always get authentication.
So the idea is keys fixed in the code, so you can't change that. So basically you keep on changing the value and then the environments will pick up, based on the environment, it will pick the correct value.
In the use case here is like the key was leaked. As a result, like we need to like forcefully revoke it, right? So then the question is like when you forcefully revoke it, yes, like it will break the existing running applications, right? And then like until you upgrade to the new key, regenerate the new key and redeploy it, so there will be a downtime. So if that's the question, I think...
Just you have one secret name that you use. Right?
Yeah.
You don't have an evolutionary meaning secret version 1, and then you evolution that into secret number 2, so you can gracefully transition into using new values for your secret.
Yeah. Yeah. From the application developer's perspective, like we always refer to a single key. But when it gets saved into the key vault, we have multiple revisions. For example, like the secret value will be different in your backends, and we have that basically different versions in the key vault level. But in the code level, it's always one key.
I think from the configuration level, you can update the keys. It is original page if you get
Yeah, I get it. It's just you don't want to risk yourself picking up the new value too early if one of your pods restarts while you are planning for your deployments, and that was my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's the new build is successful. Now let's go and deploy the BFF API. So here I'll configure and deploy. Right. So while the deployment is going on, let me quickly go to the project page and open the architecture diagram. So as you can see, now the architecture diagram show the parts of the request. So the BFF API is open to the internet, and then BFF API itself will call to receipt and accounts APIs. Okay, so now we have created all the components that we require to build the application, all the APIs that is required for this application. So now let's see what type of experience does the developer get when it comes to iteratively develop this BFF API. So let me go to the VS Code again. So here, when it comes to developing this BFF API, you would want to use accounts and receipt API, connect to accounts and receipt API. So Choreo gives you a feature to connect from your local machine to the APIs in the development environment without the developer needs to bring in this accounts and receipt API in its own machine. So as you can see, all these three APIs are implemented in different languages, so they might be maintained by different teams. So if you are a Node.js developer, in order to bring up the other two services, you have to install Go and Python into your machine. But what if you can, instead of installing them, if you can connect to the development environment from your local machine itself, that will make your life tremendously easy. So let's see how that feature works in Choreo. Okay. So here I have the terminal. For this particular case, I will use the Choreo CLI to connect my local environment to the development environment. So basically, I'll go into the BFF API, inside BFF API, and then I'll use Choreo CLI to do that. First, you need to log into the Choreo CLI. So it will follow, open up the browser where you can sign in. We also support PAT, to add a PAT as well, so you don't have to log in all the time. And once I log in, since I'm using the organization that Manjula shared, I'll switch to that org. which is WSO2Con Lab 2. Okay, so now I'm all set. The Choreo CLI is working. So let's see how we can connect to the development environment. To do that, I'll issue Choreo C, and I'll give this BFF API. So here I want to connect to the development environment as the BFF API. So I'll pass the component name like this. Sorry, Choreo Connect. And then it'll ask for the project. So I'll select expense tracker, and it'll ask for the environment. So I'll select development. So this will take a bit of time. Okay, so now this particular shell is connected to the development environment. So let's try to invoke the accounts API and see if that works. So in order to get the accounts API URL, I can issue Choreo describe. Then I'll select expense tracker, and I'll select accounts. So as you can see, the accounts API URL is given here. So let me copy that. Then I can issue a curl to that API. So let me find the correct path. Okay, so since we don't have any bills stored at the moment, it will return null. So as you can see from this particular terminal, I'm hitting the development environment API. So let's see how you would build the BFF API using this. So first, let me exit from the Choreo Connect. So then I'll run the BFF API. So I'll do a npm install and npm start. Okay, so now the BFF API is running in my local machine. So let's try to invoke that. So I'll split the screen. Then I'll do a curl. With the port as 9090, since the context is API. So as you can see, I get an error. So I get an error because the environment variable that fetches the accounts API URL is not there. So because of that, the backend call is not happening. So let's try the same thing by connecting this to the Choreo development environment. So now let's issue the same request. Sorry, I have to start the npm BFF server. Okay, so now the BFF API is running, so let's issue the same thing. So as you can see, it returns the, since the accounts API returns a null, instead of returning the null to the front, it returns an empty array. So this makes life of developers extremely easy, so you don't have to go and set up your dependent components. You can directly connect whichever component you are developing to the dev environment and iteratively implement your work. So if you want, you can also run the same commands in a debug environment as well, and then basically debug the code while connecting to the backend APIs in the dev environment. So this is something powerful that is there in Choreo. Any questions? Okay. Okay, so we have completed creating all the APIs. So let's quickly deploy the web application now. So I'll go back to the Choreo console. I'll add a new component, and this time I'll select web application. And I'll select the web app directory for the component. And since this is a React app, I'll select React build pack here, and then give details on the build pack. So here the build command is npm run build, and the build path is /build, and the node version I'll give 20. Okay, now the web application is being built. So while this is building, so the next step is connecting the web application to the BFF API. So let me go to the BFF API. So by default, Choreo protects the public API with OAuth 2. So in this case, I'm not going to use that. I'll expose the API freely without any protection. So I'll uncheck that. Then I'll apply. And then I'll deploy the update. And then I'll go back to the web application. Okay, so the build is successful, so I can go and deploy this. So I'll select configure and deploy. So now here I have to give the URL of the BFF public API URL. So let me quickly get that. So I'll get the public URL from here. So this public URL is the development environment's URL. I'll copy that. And then go back to the web application. I'll give it as API URL. So by default, a web application is again protected by managed authentication. For the simplicity, we'll not use that now. And then I'll simply deploy. Okay, so now the web application is getting deployed. Okay, so now it's deployed, so let's go and try it out. So I'll click the public URL. So as you can see, it doesn't have any expenses yet, so let's quickly add that. So if you want, you can add details manually. So that works. And also, since we have the receipt API, you can upload a bill as well. So I'll add an image of a bill. Which is found in this receipt API. So this is an image of a bill, so let's process that. Okay, so as you can see, the image goes through Choreo, through the BFF API, and then it goes to the receipt API, and the receipt API goes to the OpenAI and converted that value, which get added to the accounts API. So that's it. As you can see, we have completed the application development. So if you take the full session, also what I did was like configure all the application infrastructure work. So basically, like if you're actually building application, you can do all that work in that short amount of time, and then the rest of the time you can focus on the development. So now, as the final step, I can go to one of these APIs and go to deploy. Then I can request to promote. So I don't have permission to directly promote, so I can make a request. And submit. Okay, so as a developer, my work is done. So I'll hand back to Manjula to proceed with the next steps.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, so we are back in the platform engineering perspective, and let's see like whether I have any workflow approval requests. Yes, there's one that's what Joe just shared. So let me review it. And then I can approve it. So once I approve it, then basically so then we give the green light saying like someone can again like promote it. Like this won't automatically deploy this to the production or to the next environment. Now we have to like go to that particular component again and deploy it. So I'm skipping that part due to the time constraint. And then I want to like quickly show some of the insights. Let's say like some operational insight related to this particular project. You will see like how many services created and in the development environment. Let's select some changes. Yeah. So you can see some statistics about the CPU and memory utilization of your like this particular project. And then quickly I'm moving to the alert section. So there are also like, let's say, receipts API, which is like communicating in the open API, right? So here we can basically define like various like metrics, latency or based, log-based, traffic-based sort of like alerts. And let's say go ahead with say 99th percentile, and if it is going above 1 second, let's say I want to trigger an email to me. And for a 5 minutes window. So let's create it. So likewise, like you can basically keep on creating different alerts for different environments and so on. And then finally, let me show the observability view as well, where metric section. Again, different component level metrics, and this is the project level metrics. So again, let's switch back to the development environment. From the right-hand side, I can see all the logs happening on the entire project itself, not only one particular component, but you can drill down to the component level too. And then like the traffic flows, let's say, like for this particular window in the last 24 hours, like you can see there how many requests are coming, like average latency and so on. So, and then like we have different wirings, like how the traffic flow at the static wiring at runtime and so on, right? So this is the overall observability aspect of the product. Basically, Joe, as a developer, develop it, and like maybe as a architect, we should be able to get a current architecture of my application. Maybe tomorrow you will delete one component or you will add another component, and then like you can go back to the previous date and see that what that architecture look like. So that is very important, like when you are like basically working with multiple microservices in different projects and so on. In overall, like this is where the external identity provider, identity provider related configurations, where we had a question on that, and you can configure there. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it what we want to cover in this session. So if you try to recap, so as the platform engineer, like I was able to configure this particular organization with various configurations, and then invite Joe as a chief architect or the developer to onboard application. After that, like after onboarding the application, I was able to look at what are the application deployed and then configure various alerts, metrics, and so on, right? So yeah, this is it. And then one thing like basically Joe covered here was that you might have noticed this, basically we did not have like authentication configured for the web application due to the like time constraint of this lab session. So as the next step, like you can proceed on to that sort of things. And also connect with us, like if you have any feedback or anything, like we would happy to talk to you, or like if you have any questions, talk to us, both of us and the entire Choreo team is here, like we are happy to take any questions.